Welcome back. Today's topic today will be the North Carolina Drivers Handbook. Welcome you again. Be sure to put those who are my students. Be sure to put in the email the information I told you back last session, and I'll also you'll need your subject name, in the subject and school name, your full name in the body of the email, and the start time, end time, and special code, and your school again. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the North Carolina Driver's Handbook here. For those of you who are outside the state of North Carolina, you can feel free to skip this part. If you're in North Carolina but not one of my customers at Metro Driving Academy, feel free to listen in. If you're one of my customers that already has a handbook, feel free to go ahead and get it out. Also, too, I'll put a link at the bottom in the description of where to find a PDF file. There's a website called drivingtest.org that we'll refer to later on throughout the course, and we can use that particular. They have that particular PDF file for you to download, or you can keep it on your laptop. So today we're just going to go through a few items in this book. Be sure to, like I said, be sure once again to listen for the code, and as we go through, be sure to go ahead and sign in to drivingtest.org, get your handbook out or stuff like that. It's a lot easier to follow along with than just having no idea. So as I mentioned in the last video, this is very important for you to know front to back. Okay, it is very, very important. As I mentioned before, students who've taken driver's ed and adults maybe who have not, this is the link between the two. So they have to kind of make the test similar to this book a little bit, so that people who didn't take driving tests as a youngster, as a teenager, they can have an opportunity to pass as well. So without further ado, as I mentioned, if I were you, I would go ahead. Remember the five documents you'll need. I would go ahead and just write them in this notes section. Remember, it's the driver's ed completion form. Okay, the driver eligibility certificate that you'll either get through the homeschool organization in Raleigh, or through your school, whether it's private or private or public or charter. You'll need that form, your social security card, your birth certificate, and a utility statement. Okay. Remember, a utility statement can be in someone else's name, but it's just proving that you're a resident of North Carolina. You're not from another state trying to get a North Carolina license or permit in your case. So anyway, as many of you know me from the past, I don't read word for word. Okay, most everyone is at least 15 years or older, so you guys all know how to read. So I'm just going to kind of skim through things. If you want to come back to your book or your PDF file and read word for word, feel free to. If that's how you study and that's how you gain the knowledge that you need, go for it. Okay, but I personally, I'm not going to bore you with every little sentence and every little word. You guys all can read and things of that nature, so I'm not going to bore you. Okay, and once again, this is for North Carolina. Any other state has their own books, and I feel like, I would imagine, just my experience, most of the states are pretty similar. So, if you do decide to look at this video, and you're from out of state, feel free to. I'm not saying don't. Please subscribe to the channel. Get notifications of upcoming videos. Also, too, like us on Facebook at Metro Driving Academy, and we'll get started. On page 8, like I said, I'll skim through, go back and forth, and jump through quite a bit, so just kind of bear with me. Page 8 says it all. Okay, it says it all in the very, very first sentence of the very first chapter. And I will read this slowly. Okay, driving is a legal privilege and responsibility. Okay, let that sink in. I'm gonna pause a minute and let that sink in, and I'm gonna reread it. Driving is a legal privilege and responsibility. Some of you students in the past feel that they have a birthright because they're residents of North Carolina. They should get their license. Maybe because they have a wealthy income that they can, they're above the law. No, it's a legal privilege. This privilege can be taken from you. Okay, for various reasons. Okay, and we'll go over some of those reasons as the course progresses, and responsibilities. Most of my students are 14 and a half, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And to be honest with you, you guys are mature, and I'm not saying you guys are not mature, but you got to understand, are you responsible when you get behind the wheel? Are you responsible to have a 5,000-pound vehicle or whatever the poundage is? And are you responsible enough to not only keep yourself safe and without harm, passengers, children, pedestrians, other cars, oncoming cars? Are you responsible not to drink and drive? Are you responsible not to get distracted by texting? Or are you responsible enough to, if you have someone in your car that is misbehaving, are you responsible enough to get them out of the car to prevent an accident? Okay, that's what responsibility I'm talking about. Yes, responsible. Yes, you can do your algebra homework. Yes, you can do your math homework. That's great, and happy for you. Good job. But every time you get behind the wheel, it's your responsibility. It's not your parents. It's not your loved ones. It's your responsibility. As I mentioned, it's a big step from 14, 15, 16 years old to, now you're wanting to be more mature, and some of you are vastly mature. Some of you are in the middle. Some of you need to be a little bit more mature. Okay, and that's all good. That's just the way life is. Okay, but when you get behind the wheel, it's on you. You're the captain of your ship. Okay, it's your responsibility, and that means if you have to get someone out of your car, maybe a loved one, maybe a best friend you've had since kindergarten. To me, they're no best friend if they're going to make so much noise and misbehave in your car to prevent you from driving safely. To me, that's just me personally. You may feel differently. Okay. All right. So we'll go from. We'll talk a little bit about maturity later. So if you would, in your handbook, turn to page 10. We won't go over really much of this. North Carolina has 3 types of licensing: Class A, Class B, Class C. And it's basically how big the vehicle is, how much it weighs, and things like that. But everyone that is getting driver's ed, taking driver's ed, will be getting Class C. So when you go get your permit on your license, unless you have special training, whether it's school bus training or whether it's, I'm drawing a blank, 18-wheeler training. Okay, that's obviously different. The next page, page 11, talks about commercial driver's license. You hear a lot of people say, I got my CDLs, Class B, Class A, Class C. There again, it's the weight of the vehicle, and you're working for somebody. I had my Class B license when I was an athletic director, so I could drive students to games and stuff like that. And I had special endorsement. I think a S and a P means school bus for S, and then passenger for P. So I had some special endorsements, meaning I had special training. Okay. Some of the endorsements, as I just mentioned, 2 of them, a little bit further down, page 11. School bus training and school bus activity, things like that. And then there's motorcycle training. If you so desire for that, there's a special endorsement. Page 12, I don't know if you can read 12 and 13. Not really read it, but see the page. This is the nuts and bolts of what you're shooting for, okay? North Carolina, and I would imagine all states, but I know North Carolina and surrounding states have a graduated licensing program. Okay, within that graduated licensing program, you have to go 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, so forth, in order to get your full license. Okay, so now those are 15 to 18. We're talking about learner's permit. Okay, you must complete driver's ed. Once you complete that, as I mentioned, if you're one of my students, I'll get with you personally and give you your certificate. You have to have your driver eligibility certificate, as we just mentioned, from your school. Okay, and remember that driver eligibility certificate is only good for 30 days, so time it to where you have more time. Okay, one of the bullet points. We must be 15 to no older than 18, reside in North Carolina. Must complete the 30 hours of classroom training, instruction, and 6 hours behind the wheel. And I will get with my students later on to schedule with your parents and with your family members. Okay. Once that's complete, once I give you a certificate, you go to the DMV with all the 5 forms that I mentioned to you earlier having. Okay. Excuse me. Also, too, you'll take a written test, which now they're mainly on computers. Sign test. We'll talk a little bit about the sign test and stuff later on today. And vision test, and that's pretty easy stuff. Okay. During the first 6 months, okay, you get your permit. You can only drive before 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Some of you have friends and family members that have their level 2s. And you've heard of before 9s and after 9s and things like that. It's the same concept. You can't drive after 9 p.m. Okay. So for the first 6 months, and then after the second 6 months, then you can go drive after 9. You must have your have your permit for 1 year. Okay. As I mentioned in the last video, okay, you could be done with your 60 hours really quickly, and that's all good. Please continue to keep practicing so you get better, but you have to maintain your permit for a year. Okay. In that year, just like I mentioned before, you have to have 60 hours of driving with your supervising driver. Remember, your supervising driver has to be in the front seat with you. Okay. You keep a log of the 60 hours. 50 of them could be during the day. 10 of them has to be at night. Okay. All right. So you've kept your log and everything. They will give you North Carolina DMV will give you a printout of a log. If you've got Android or iPhone, MileIQ, I use that as my personal for my business purposes. But there's one called Road Ready for Android. I mean, not Android, iPhone. You can use those two. They're GPS oriented. You make the account. At the end of the day, it'll give you a PDF file. You can sign off on that PDF file. Your supervisor driver says that you got your 60 hours in. Or you can handwrite it. That's fine too. All passengers must be in a seatbelt. Okay, let me stop and let you sink on that. All passengers. Okay, I don't care if you don't feel it's cool to have your seatbelt on or whatever. You must have your seatbelt on. If you're carrying or driving around younger siblings or younger cousins or family members, I wouldn't expect you to know every single detail about car seats and stuff like that. Ask the parents to make sure you have the right seatbelt or the right car seat or booster seat that is required by law to keep your sibling safe, or your cousin, or if you're babysitting someone or something like that. So make sure. I would not start my car. Do you understand? I would not start my car unless if I knew everybody had their seatbelts on. Once again, if there's an accident, they're coming. The police will be speaking with you more intently than anyone else. It's your responsibility to make sure everyone has their seatbelts in. Make sure that happens. Okay. Once again, supervisor driver has to be in the seat next to you, in the front seat. Okay. Then technology. Okay. We kind of talked about this on last episode. Cell phone use. Everybody's doing it. Sorry, that's just the way the world is. But if you're under 21 in North Carolina, they will hammer you pretty hard if you're using a cell phone. Okay, cell phone use is, like I said, everybody's doing it. Doesn't make it right. As I mentioned in the last video, just pretend like you closing your eyes for 5 seconds going down the road at 60, 65 miles an hour. That's pretty much the equivalent of texting. I would turn my phone off. I'd put it on Do Not Disturb. I would flip it over to where I wouldn't even want to see, even if I had it on mute, I would not want to see the little indicator light that says you got a app update or a message or an email or whatever. I wouldn't even want to do that because it's a distraction. Your mind's going, okay, well, who's emailing? Who left me a message? Excuse me. Who left me a message? Who, and all this stuff's going through your head, and you're not focusing on the road. Okay, so I would, if it's so important, either pull off the side of the road, find the parking lot, something like that, then text. Okay, or if you have someone in the seat next to you, have them do the texting. Okay, I wouldn't really like that either, personally. You're still thinking about what to tell the person to text, and your mind's not completely on the road. But people do that. Okay. The second page, or the next page, page 13 of that 2-page I was done. Now this is after you've completed your year of your permit, and you've got your 60 hours in. Okay. Now you are going for your level 2s or intermediate, however you want to call it. Now you have to drive with the DMV. Okay, there's a test that they'll give you. Usually it's not very long or very hard if you're paying attention to what they want you to do. Okay, just understand they're looking for safety first. They're not looking for the speed or the how you do something. North Carolina, the one here in Concord, is a pretty easy test, but you can fail it really quickly. It's one of those things, if you're not paying attention. I've had a student before that didn't even get out of the parking lot, and the examiner had failed them, and they didn't even get a chance to get out of the parking space, to be honest with you. So you can fail it really quickly, but you also can pass it with no problems either, if you're paying attention, if you're safety minded. Okay, so you pass your level 2s exam driving part. Once again, you have to be 16 at this time. If you're over 16, that's fine. Before 9s, as I mentioned, with the permit, you cannot drive after 9. Make sure that happens. Okay, 9:15 does not count as 9 p.m. Okay, I wouldn't want you to get a ticket or get in some trouble with the police for something like this. And there's no reason to have something on your record at 16 years old. Okay. Once again, all passengers has to be in a seatbelt. Make sure that happens. Okay. There's that responsibility I keep harping on. You'll hear me harp on it throughout the course. Make sure that happens. Okay. And then here's the stipulation. Now that you can drive by yourself, you can only have one person in the car under 21. That's not a family member. Okay, so that doesn't mean if you play basketball or sports or cheer or dance or whatever, it doesn't mean a whole group of people can get in the car with you. Okay, if you have younger siblings, let's say you're in high school at one school and they're in a middle school at another school and they're under 21, yes, you can drive under 21 siblings to pick up and drop off at schools and stuff like that. But a non-family member, only one person, and they can hammer you pretty hard if it comes to it. And two, you're learning how to drive on your own. As I mentioned earlier, distractions. Let's face it, if you have, and this goes for anyone, adults, young people, it goes for anyone. The more people you have in the car, the more potential you have for distractions, period. Think about it this way. You may have, I may have three people, three kids in my car. One kid's listening to radio, one his iPhone, one kid's playing a game, one kid is singing out loud or something. I'm just making all that up as an example. That's three people that could be distracting me from driving. Okay, so it's really easy to be distracted. Remember, the distraction is not what's going to get in trouble. It's going to be you by being distracted. Okay, once again, the cell phone use still in effect. Make sure that happens. There's so many people have died, killed other people, innocent people, things like that over silly text. I know you guys text all the time, and that's how you communicate, and that's good. Some of you probably do 7,000-8,000 texts a month. You probably do it in your sleep. But when you're driving, turn it on, do not disturb, or turn it off even. Okay, and if your friend gets a do not disturb message on, or something like that, that's a friend that would basically say, okay, I'm gonna wait until my friend quits driving, then they'll respond back to me. If you have a friend that's not going to cooperate with that, then once again, I'm not sure that there was too much of a friend. Okay, and then once you get 18, you get your level 3s or your full license and things like that. Look forward to seeing you on the next video. The code on this video is XYZ9888.